When Martin Luther King Jr. wore roller skates by Mark Whelan, illustrated by Patrick Ballesteros. When Martin Luther King Jr. was 8 years old, a woman in a department store hung at him and slapped him. You stepped on my foot, she yelled. Martin didn't know the angry white woman standing in front of him, but he stayed calm. Although he was shocked, he simply walked away. Martin was a child who learned to overcome difficulties without violence. Like his mother, he was gentle and caring. Like his father, he was determined and fearless. Martin drew on these childhood traits as he grew up. He became a leader admired by millions of people around the world. Boys and girls, admired means to be fond of, to like someone. It was January 15th, 1929. In the hallway outside his bedroom, Martin Luther King Sr. nervously paced. His family called him Daddy King. Inside the bedroom, his wife was giving birth. Daddy King leaped with joy when he found out the baby was a boy. No one knew then that this small child would become a great man. The Kings named their son Michael after Daddy King, but a few years later, Daddy King changed both his name and his son's name to Martin. Martin's parents gave him a wonderful life. He lived in a comfortable home. He had a younger brother and older sister to play with, and he had loving adults all around him, including his grandparents who lived in the same house. Daddy King was a minister. His sermons and his interest in civil rights helped shape Martin's beliefs early on. Martin's mother taught him to believe in himself. You are as good as anyone, she said. Guys, the underlined word minister means to provide information about God. This person is like a preacher, that's a synonym for it. A sermon is information taken from the Bible that is given to provide people opportunities to uh, live and learn about God through everyday life. Okay? And our next word is civil rights. Can you say civil rights? Very good. Now, civil rights are rights guaranteed and protected by the U.S. Constitution and federal laws enacted by Congress. In other words, every person has the opportunity to live safe and sound in the United States. In Martin's family, church was an important part of life. In Martin's family, church was an important part of life. Once his father hosted a guest preacher from Virginia. The man talked to folks about joining the church. Martin's sister was the first one to sign up. When he saw her joining, little Martin decided to join too. You're only 5 years old, said the preacher. I'm not going to let my sister get ahead of me, Martin said. I'm joining next. Martin's family lived in a 12-room house on Auburn Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. The house was the center of Martin's universe. In the backyard, he played with kids from the neighborhood. He roller skated and biked up and down Auburn Avenue with his friends. At school, Martin got along with other children, but there was a school bully. When that bully hit him, Martin refused to fight back. He knew violence was not the answer. Martin's brother was named Alfred Daniel, but everyone called him AD. He and Martin loved to run and play. They played football and baseball, and they played basketball at the fire station near their house. Because of racial segregation, no black men or women worked there. But the station, kids of different races, guess what? They all played together. Let's look at that picture. Look how everyone is getting along. There's no fighting. They're all working together. And the word segregation means the act or state of setting someone or something apart from others. Every evening, the king sat down to eat dinner. Martin's father insisted that no one eat until he got home. Wow, that means they had to wait and they had to be patient. Guess what? The word insisted means to demand something forcefully, not accepting refusal, meaning they had to do it. Okay? That's what the word insisted means. When Daddy King got home late, the kids were starving, but still they couldn't eat. First, they had to recite a Bible verse. Recite means to say aloud. The boys were smart. The verse they often picked was just 2 words. Jesus wept. It's the shortest verse in the Bible, said Martin with a grin. Martin often played with a boy from the neighborhood. It didn't matter to Martin that the boy was white. The two of them were good friends. One day, the boy's father told his son that he could no longer play with Martin. Martin did not understand why the boys couldn't be friends. Why, he asked Daddy King, why did his father say we can't play together? Examine the picture, boys and girls. Notice the boy's father and look at Martin and his dad. Look at Martin's friend. Look at his face. Do you see the emotion that he's showing there? Let's read on to find out what will happen next. Martin's parents talked to him about race and segregation. They told him that black people were often treated terribly. Martin was shocked. He decided that he should hate white people. You should not hate the white man. It's your duty as a Christian to love him, said his parents. Martin had a hard time understanding this. How can I love a race of people who hate me and who are responsible for breaking me up with one of my best childhood friends? He asked. You must try, said Mother. One day I'll change things, said Martin. One day I'm going to turn this world upside down. Martin was determined. He felt angry when he experienced discrimination because of the color of his skin. Boys and girls, do you know what discrimination means? That's right. It is unjust or prejudicial prejudgment or prejudice or treatment of different categories of people, especially on the grounds of their ethnicity, the way that they um, dress, or have a problem with their disability, with their age or sex. When he was 14 years old, Martin traveled on a bus with a teacher to a speech contest. On the way home, Martin and his teacher were forced out of their seats so whites could take them. It was a 90-mile trip. That's 445 kilometers. Kilometers. Martin and his teacher stood there for 3 hours on that ride. Martin said it was the angriest I've ever been in my life. Martin was very smart. He skipped right over the 9th and the 11th grades. At age 15, Martin started college. In college, Martin was popular, but he wasn't sure about the rest of his life. He had always thought he would become a minister like his father, but he began to question his faith. Eventually, though, he came back to his roots. I have decided to lead a church, he told his father. By that time, Martin was 25 years old. He had earned a doctoral degree. He married Coretta Scott King. Like Martin, she believed in the importance of peace. The couple settled in Montgomery, Alabama, and they had 4 children. Martin's parents were proud of him because he had become the pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. His father, Daddy King, was especially happy. Boys and girls, why do you think Martin's parents were proud of him? That's right. He had accomplished so much. He graduated from college. That is a postgraduate academic degree awarded by many universities. That is one of the highest degrees one can achieve. As Martin grew older, he became more active in helping African Americans gain rights. He was chosen to be the spokesperson for the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955. Later, he led a nonviolent action, including sit-ins, demonstrations, and marches for civil rights. He said that he would not respond to violence with violence. Martin gave some of the most memorable speeches in American history. In 1963, he gave his famous I Have a Dream speech before 200,000 people in Washington, D.C. In his speech, Martin said, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. The content of their character means we don't treat people based on the way they look on the outside, and we look on what's the inside of that person. We want to know all about the person's behavior. Boys and girls, this is the end of our story. I want you to know that throughout Dr. Martin Luther King's life, he thought about leading and he did it peacefully. He didn't want any violence. He focused on helping the poor. He worked on creating world peace. In 1964, he actually received the Nobel Peace Prize for all of those efforts. Boys and girls, when you become famous one day or whatever your desires are, always follow what's in your heart, mind, and spirit. What makes you happy and peacefully. Here we have a glossary to help you understand some of the words that we went over. It's very important, like violence, hurting someone with words or actions, yelling words, bad words, and hitting them are both acts of violence, okay? Look at those words. Boys and girls, it's been a pleasure reading to you. Have a great night. Good night, Lowndes County.